All right, we're right at 6:02 sharp. So go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody's on that wants to be on. Before we get started, just want to make sure that everybody's aware that we are recording this tonight. So if there's anything that you missed, you're concerned that you have some notes, we will have a recording and it'll be available to anybody afterwards. So I wanted to thank everybody first and foremost for being here tonight. I'm excited about this topic. My name is Dr. Renee Varela. I'm the director of the Bureau of Animal Services. Been now with the county for a little over a year and a half, and it's been a great beginning of my time here. Today's presentation is about something that's probably near and dear to everybody's hearts here, and it's Oscar's law. More importantly, it's actually how to set community standards and actually enforce those standards for the care of animals when they're exposed to either extreme cold or extreme hot. Um, and so that the topic alone is exciting enough, but I'm really excited to introduce our supervisor for the field services section within animal services. Kayla Franskowski has been with us, gosh, since she was a child. So she grew up in our bureau, and working her way through the entire uh, all the different roles you can possibly play along the way, and she's really grown with it. So today she's the head of an incredible team out there in the field. Um, Obviously citing people when they're out of compliance, but also helping people to become into compliance and actually educating the public. And the last bit I'll say that she is definitely the de facto guru of everything animal law within our bureau. So she's my go-to person, and I hope you'll realize today why she is everybody's go-to person in animal law within the county, and she's a resource that's invaluable to all of us. So Kayla, I will hand it off to you and take us down this road.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Um, as Dr. Varela said, I've been the field supervisor at BCAS. I've done quite a few different roles, but I've been here for about 14 years now. So kind of worked my way through various parts of animal services. The first thing before we get into the Oscars law that I want to go over with you guys is our the field services role in the animal services division. So we enforce the provisions of Article 12 of the Baltimore County Code, and that includes conducting investigations and inspections on abuse, neglect, stray and owned animal pickup, nuisance animals, facility inspections, animal bites, rabies control, even down to the dead animal removal on the county-owned properties and streets. So there's kind of a lot of stuff that we cover. There's 9 officers, and we run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, primarily Monday through Saturday, and then after business hours on those days, it's on call. Um, So getting into Oscar's law and what it is, it was a bill that was passed in 2018 by the county council, and it really strengthened the collars and shelters portion of the county code. It added definitions surrounding adverse environmental conditions, appropriate temperatures, and required shelter. So the minimum standards for a shelter outside for your animal. It included Baltimore County police officers under the authority to enter portion of the code, which gives them essentially the authority to enter a property to discharge the duties of an animal control officer, such as checking for proper food, water, shelter, even up to impoundment of the animal if those things are not available to the animal. It required that animals be brought inside a home or building within 30 minutes of the onset of adverse environmental conditions, so any type of weather, unless the animal has continuous access to suitable shelter, which is one thing I definitely want to emphasize because we get a lot of misconceptions in the field in regards to this, whether we're speaking with constituents who are making the complaints or the actual pet owners themselves. Um, it doesn't mandate that animals, no matter what, must be brought inside within a half hour of adverse environmental conditions. That's only if they don't have access to suitable shelter. Um, any instance of rain, sleet, snow, anything like that, the law does say they have to be brought inside within 30 minutes. Like I said, unless there is access to suitable shelter, which we'll kind of go into in the next slides of what the minimum standards of that are and what we as animal control officers can mandate on top of that to ensure the health and well-being of the animal when it's outside. Um, it also specified the type of outdoor shelter that must be provided. If it's not kept within a home and how it must be maintained. All right. So here's the main bulk of the shelter requirements. And it is a lot, but it's also very basic in the code. It's, you know, they have to have it has to be free of standing water, free of accumulated waste, protected from flooding, and allow for adequate ventilation. Really important to note, though, too, we require shelter regardless if an animal is left outside unattended for more than 30 minutes. That's regardless of weather. It could be a beautiful, sunny spring day. And the reason for that is because Maryland weather, I suppose you could say, but it's a safeguard because at any time it could rain, it could get windy, something could happen, and if you're not there and that animal's unattended and it doesn't have access to shelter, it could adversely affect the health or well-being of that animal. Um, so it was great that Oscar's Law put that into the code, the time frame per se, but we mandate that regardless of any weather conditions. If we go out and substantiate that an animal is being left outside without the proper provisions, we are going to mandate that you get a doghouse, even if the day we're out, it is a 60-degree, beautiful spring day. You're going to need to have a doghouse, an untippable water bowl, and things of that nature. Um, what is not considered appropriate shelter are things like crawl spaces, the space under or inside of a vehicle, any structure made from cardboard or materials that would easily degrade, and any floor consisting of wire or chain link. So those are important things to note too that Oscar's Law kind of brought into the code. It very clearly defined what is considered appropriate shelter, but it also put in what is not considered appropriate shelter, which um, is probably not a surprise to most people, but a lot of those things that are specified in the law now as being not considered appropriate shelter are still often go-tos for animal shelter outside. So it is nice that that kind of wrapped that all in and put that into the code. Um, the picture you see on the screen of the outdoor doghouse guide is what we provide in the field. It is like a best standards, essentially. Um, we ask that a door flap be placed, especially during the colder months. There are times when a dog will keep ripping it off, things like that. But as a gold standard, every doghouse would have a door flap and bedding. That's another one of our sticking points is straw bedding. We do not like to see any type of cloth material, blankets, anything like that. We understand that it is a good idea when you're putting it in and it's dry, but when it gets wet and it freezes, it becomes a solid block. Straw is not as absorbent and is a good insulator. Um, the size of the doghouse, it should be large enough for the animal to stand, turn, and lie down, but we want it to be small enough so that it helps retain the body heat on those cold days. Um, Roof, it needs to be ideally have shingles on it or be metal, something that is not going to easily degrade. And it should be elevated so that if there is heavy rains, not the inside of the doghouse isn't getting affected. It also will help maintain the lifespan of that doghouse. If it's not directly on the ground, it's not going to rot as quick. And another gold standard is the windbreak. If the doghouse is big enough to allow for a windbreak, it's always the best to put that in. for those windy nights, especially if it's a dog that does not go inside. Um, it's crazy to think that, still in today's world, we all have our pets inside, but there are many people in Baltimore County who do not bring their pets inside. We have many outdoor dogs that solely live outdoors in Baltimore County. Um, and so when that is the case, we make sure there is absolutely no room to question that the animal is safe in the environment it's in, and its health and well-being is not being affected by it being kept outside. All right, so the first section here includes the basic shelter requirements we already went over in the last slide. Um, but in addition to this, these basic requirements, any outdoor animal has to have continuous access to clean, potable water. And the water containers must be placed in a way that the animals can't readily tip them over. Um, we usually recommend a 5-gallon water bucket and a clip so the handle may be attached to like a eye hook or a fence nearby, something like that, to prevent, the water bucket from being tipped over, because that is a common thing, especially younger dogs in the summertime. If you give them a 5-gallon bucket of water, they want to swim in it, and then they have no water for the rest of the hot day. Um, Tethering requirements are included under the collars and shelters, which Oscar's law is included in. And it mandates that a swivel needs to be at the end of each end of the tether to prevent that tether from essentially binding up. You can see the picture in the bottom right-hand corner of a chain that got really wrapped up in some string. They always get wrapped up in sticks, things of that nature. Um, and the collar material must always be leather, nylon, or plastic. Um, we Animals in Baltimore County cannot be tethered on a choke, prong, or training collar. That's absolutely not going to be sufficient for keeping it outside on a tether left unattended. There's nothing in the code, unfortunately, that prevents the use of a chain as a tether, though. We do recommend the cable tethers that have the plastic coating on the outside. Um, you can buy them in various different lengths, sizes, gauges, things like that. A lot of the times with the chains, um, people are concerned that their animal's going to chew through the tether, which we have seen. It is very, very rare, especially if you get a very, very thick one. But the animals are bored when they're tethered, and they get destructive and they start tearing apart their doghouse and whatever they're chained to. Um, Even in those cases, though, we advise against the chains. So it doesn't matter how small it is or how heavy it is, chains always get bound up. So we're going to mandate that you get a appropriate tether, which is a cable with the plastic on the outside. And if you think that your dog is going to chew through that, then you need to get it a kennel enclosure. So like a chain link fence, a 10x6 run from Tractor Supply, something of that nature. You have to put in the provisions for your animal to make sure it's safely and effectively confined without putting its health or well-being in danger. And chains consistently will get bound up, even a stick. They just get all tangled up. They're not very effective. Let's see. Okay, so with all that, those are kind of the basics of what you have to have is, essentially food, water, shelter. Situation specific mandates, though, there's this little portion of the code that says an animal control officer can direct an owner of an animal to basically make any changes that may adversely affect the health or well-being of the animal. Um, so situation-specific mandates vary, and they depend really on how long the animal is left outdoors, on the weather, the breed of the animal, the condition of the animal. But some of the most common things officers mandate are doghouse flaps to retain heat, straw bedding during the colder months, removal of debris in the yard, um, heated water buckets, removal of excessive waste or trash in the area that the animal has access to, um, the type and length of the tether, location of the doghouse, and access to a properly shaded area. So this is a super important portion of the code here because it gives the officers a lot of um, kind of leeway to specific to the animal to mandate what is needed for them. In some cases, there are no remedies that are going to mitigate the risks if the animal is placed outside and left unattended. In those cases, the animal control officer can direct the owner to take the animal inside um, and tell them they can't leave this animal outside. Usually, the situations that rise to that sort of mandate are going to be the brachycephalic breeds in the summer. No matter what type of shade you have, short of an air conditioned house, the animal is going to have trouble breathing outside. And it's going to lead to further distress and further decline of the animal. Um, Small breeds in the winter, again, similar to the brachycephalic feeds in the summer, the small dogs in the winter, there's short of a heated house, there's nothing, no remedies that you can implement that is going to make it safe for a Chihuahua in 10-degree weather. They're just not going to be able to maintain that body heat. And then the elderly animals, of course, and that's both in the summer and in the winter. Anything that is elderly or has ongoing medical concerns, things of that nature, we may direct you to take it inside because it's adversely affecting the health or well-being of the animal. Um, if the is if the animal is left outside unattended, though, without proper provisions, and the animal's health or well-being is in immediate danger, the animal control officer can remove it. And same thing with Baltimore County Police, which I'll get to in a later slide of how that works. But we absolutely, if we can't get in contact with the owners, we make it out, and the animal is in fact outside without the proper provisions, and it is being adversely affected, we can remove the animal, bring it back to the shelter, and mandate that the owner put provisions in place prior to getting the animal back. So the common question that we always get is, well, that's a lot of stuff. What is it? What does this look like? And it really differs by person. The same things that are always going to be there are going to be the adequate shelter, proper means of confinement, continuous access to water, sanitary conditions, and protection from the elements. But each setup may look different. Like I said, if somebody has a heavy chewer and they say only a chain works, they may need to get an actual kennel set up. Um, in the summer months, a doghouse can go without straw bedding because it's a very good insulator, but it also will keep a dog out of a doghouse because it's too hot and scratchy and itchy during the summer months. So some mandates are specific for different types of year, but as a blanket, these 5 things are going to be what is required, and that is on us when we go out to educate the owner and let them know, hey, this is fine right now. But so you're aware, come winter, you're going to need to put a flap on this doghouse and get an untippable water bucket, possibly a heated water bucket, so the dog has continuous access to water. This is a summer setup. You're going to need something different as the weather changes, and vice versa for switching from the cold weather to the hot weather. An appropriate setup for the cold weather may need to be moved during the summer months because it doesn't have access to shade. So we give the owners all that information and hope that they take it and act responsibly and in the best interest of the pet. But all we can do is, of course, educate them and enforce the code. We do often do a lot of follow-ups, um, keep contact with the owners, make sure things are going as normal, but at some point, our follow-ups stop, and then we rely on the community, if you see something, to call it in. All right, so reporting animal cruelty and neglect, which is what these shelter conditions fall under when an animal is left outside without the proper provisions. Um, all initial reports of animal cruelty and neglect go to police non-emergency. I put the number up there on the screen for you guys, or 911. So Baltimore County Police go out, they initially triage it, and they will contact us if the animal needs to be removed immediately for its health or well-being. Otherwise, they put it into a report, they send it to us for follow-up civilly. So they are there to essentially triage it for potential criminal charges, or for the animal being removed if it is that severe of a situation. Otherwise, they send it to us and we follow up on it civilly with Article 12. So the licensing, all the things I went over in the first slide, making sure that the owners are meeting those minimum standards for sheltering, educating them, things of that nature. And then, of course, even after we go out, if we see something that rises to a criminal level, we work with Baltimore County Police's IST departments and the state's attorney's office for criminal charges. All right, so outside of Oscar's law, I wanted to add in some stuff about keeping your pet happy, healthy, and safe. Um, Proper training and socialization, exercise, mental stimulation, all of these things are essential to your animal's well-being and help prevent unwanted behaviors. This is one of the things we really push in the field, because a lot of the times with the outdoor animals, a lot of their bad behaviors are kind of just being piled upon because they're not getting that mental stimulation, that exercise, the socialization, all the things that animals really need. They're not getting it outside. Um, and it just makes things worse. So that's one of the big things that we push in the field. All pets, of course, must be confined to your property or on a leash when they're off of your property. Keep vaccines up to date, provide routine vet care, and microchip your pet. If your pet is not microchipped, we offer this at the shelter. It's $10. We also offer it at the rabies clinics. You can get just the chip, or if you need your rabies vaccine, we can do that too. And it is very, very helpful to get you reunited with your pet. Um, we have the scan stations now in the county. Um, in addition to the scan stations, though, to get your animal back, I know the tags are kind of outdated, but one of the quickest ways that we as animal control officers can get the animal back to you is if it has a tag with your name and phone number on it or your address. Um, it's a lot quicker to get them back to you if that animal has that information right there on its neck. Of course, spay and neuter your pet, and something we offer at the shelter as well. It can prevent those unwanted behaviors, prevent health issues, and it can prevent your pet from roaming or wanting to get out of your yard. Um, and remove and dispose of any animal waste in a timely manner, which is a very, very big thing in Baltimore County for the last few years is the rat abatement. Animal waste brings in rats, and rats bring in lepto, and very few people's pets are vaccinated for lepto. So please get rid of the animal waste, keep your pets vaccinated, and maintain a good relationship with a veterinarian just in case any of those symptoms of the weirder things start to present. You can get them in as soon as possible. So for resources, I already touched on the spay neuter package, but it is $20. It includes the rabies vaccine, distemper, bordetella, deworming, county license, and microchip with a free registration. Those appointments are available on our website. They are hard to get, but if you log in, they're uploaded, I believe, every night. So if you log in every night and check, or every morning and check, they should be on there. The rabies clinics we only do in the spring and the fall. It's $9 for a rabies vaccine, and that package comes with a county license and microchip. You can just get the microchips at the clinics as well. They're $10 without the rabies vaccine. And our website has a lot of really great information, especially if you're looking to rehome your pet, if you need financial assistance for veterinary care, for food, things of that nature, behavioral issues. If you're having behavioral issues with your pet, there's a lot of great resources on our website for that, for training, and then a lot of community support services. The links take you to other websites, but there's a lot of great community support services out there that can get you in touch um, to make sure that you have what you need for your animals or that your animals are getting what they need. Um, and how to contact us. So our main line is there, and then the animal services email, which is a very good way to get in contact with us if you just have a quick general question. The main line will take you through a phone tree. So there's about 5 different options that you can choose from, being the shelter, field services, spay and neuter department, things like that. But if you just have a quick question or want to inquire about something, the email is checked daily. And we get back to you fairly quick. And then, of course, our website, which has a ton of information on it. Um, and that's all I have, I think. That was quick. It was only a half hour. Did anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Kayla. Yeah, before hopefully people are going to generate questions and put them in the chat there. But before that, too, I also want to let everybody know that we also have a Facebook page. We're on Facebook and also Instagram. For many people, that winds up becoming kind of an easier way to access that. And so just look up Baltimore County Animal Services. Please don't forget Baltimore County Animal Services. Just do a quick search and you'll find, like us and follow us, and we can. If you message us, there's a real human being that will respond to you and get you the information you need. And trust me, no question is too vague or crazy or any of that sort of stuff. We field all the questions
Yep.
that are
And
there.
if you think of a question later, or want further information, anything like that, truly don't hesitate to reach out to us. Like I said, I know the phone tree can be tricky, but you can always reach out to us via email, or sit through the phone tree. We're happy to talk to you then. But a lot of issues in the community, we can hopefully, if people ask more questions and get more information, we can kind of prevent a lot of those issues. So do not hesitate to reach out. No question is too small. No question is ever dumb. It just gives you further information to make the best decisions for you, your pets, or your community.
So let me ask you, Kayla. So your team is always out in the field, principally responding to complaints. But what would you say they spend the majority of their time doing when they're out in the field with the public?
I would say probably education, advising people. I always say this, I feel like I've been saying it for 10 years, right? But common sense isn't always common, and it's not. People get pets and they truly don't understand what goes into having that breed of dog or that type of pet. And it's not that they want to do wrong. Sometimes it happens, but most of the time they don't want to do wrong by the pet. They truly don't know. So I think a large portion of what the officers do every day is just talking with the public, even if it's not directly on a complaint that they're out on, but educating people of like, hey, this is how we would do this. These are the best practices. Be sure you're doing this when you're, taking your dog for a walk. Um, and all of those little tidbits of information hopefully lead them to be a better pet owner.
Now, you mentioned the website being a great resource for the general public, but a big part of this presentation was Oscar's Law. So it's written in the county and our county laws. If you're just a member of the general public, not a lawyer, not somebody who's an expert here, how can you find out about all the animal laws in the county?
Yeah, so on our website, it actually kind of summarizes the code, the county code a little bit, the main portions of it, I should say. But there is also a link to Article 12, which you could go through and read. It is not, for me, I love it, but I don't think that the average person would want to go through and read that. So on our um, website, the main portions are highlighted as far as how much the violations are, what we normally issue citations for, and the probably I would say top 15 complaints that we get and what violations of the county code correspond with them and what citations we are able to issue for those.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And anybody who's on this webinar, please take advantage of that. Take a look at it, share it with your neighbors and friends. Now, we do have some
I just
comments in the
saw,
chat.
yes. Okay, so I'm reading them. So let's see. To confirm, if someone is concerned about a dog outside in extreme weather without access to shelter, they should first contact the non-emergency police line. That is right. So first, you're going to call non-emergency police, or 911 if it's an instance of, somebody is actively beating an animal, something of that nature, um, and make the complaint with them just as you would with us for a nuisance complaint. They send out a Baltimore County police officer who initially triages it. And what they do is they gather all the information at first, see if the animal is in immediate danger. If it needs to be removed, they give us a call, or if the information can just be put into a report and sent to us for follow up, that is what they do. Sometimes those reports still lead to eventually the animal needing to be removed, but the first line of contact is always the police for these cruelty and neglect reports, because they're going to determine whether or not it could potentially be a criminal matter before they send it to us to be followed up on civilly.
Thank you.
Um,
And I can't overemphasize how close we are with law enforcement. It is a hand in glove relationship. So don't think that your reports are going to be lost. They're very quickly sent over to us, so we can respond if it's necessary.
yep. And then it looks like Tony asked, what do you do when you run into difficult persons? We very frequently have that. I would say if you ask the officers, they would probably say daily, but they're very, very, very good with um, de-escalating. We're there for the animals. We're there with, we're not there to take you to jail or to make you do anything that isn't in the best interest of your pet. And if you need help with that, we have resources that we can get you to help you with those steps. So, um, a lot of the time, I feel like, of course, we use de escalation uh, in almost every single circumstance. And once people realize that we're really there, if we can help, if we can offer you resources, help, um, to get you into a better place to where you can provide the adequate care for your animal, that's what we want to do. And that's also ultimately, in most cases, what they want. They just have had blockades getting that in the past. So usually it ends up with a peaceful resolve, but we do run into that quite frequently.
Thank you. Can you actually give some, because that's a great question about what you do when you run into difficult people. Yeah, you absolutely do. Kind of give some examples of why some folks might be in maybe not their best self when they encounter you.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think a lot of the times, aside from Oscar's law, but just in general, um, you're they may not be providing adequate vet care, or food or water, not because they don't, like I've said, want to, but because they can't. They're normally in a tough spot themselves. They don't have the money to get their own medical care or their own whatever they need. So it's put them in a tougher spot. So a lot of the times it makes them, I don't want to say combative, but they're the wall is up. It is like, I don't want anything from you. My animal's fine. I don't want any help. Please leave. Um, but normally, going through and kind of breaking down the, if you need something, we're here, but either way, this has to be addressed. So, we're not going away, unfortunately. If there's something we can do to help you change this, that's what we would prefer. We never want to have to take your animal or write you citations, do any type of enforcement, if we can just work together and come to a happy medium and the animal's safe and healthy. And even if that's offering you resources, and sometimes it also comes down to people just realizing they can't have the pet anymore, which is a really hard thing for people to come to terms with, that they can't provide the adequate care for it. It doesn't change the fact that they absolutely love the pet. Um, but sometimes just working with people to kind of go through those steps of, if not you, somebody else could provide that care. And maybe that's the best situation for the circumstance that you're in.
And I know there's been plenty of situations where they're grateful that somebody actually finally approached them and had that conversation with them.
Yep, absolutely.
Uh, so, kind of digging even deeper into that, because I know your team has a lot of pride and having those conversations. Can you give an example for the audience here, for the people on? about a time when you approached a difficult situation, somebody who's actually not having their best day, and just having the conversation, uh, it led to another conversation that was incredibly helpful to them, beyond
Yeah.
surrendering their animals.
Sure. I mean, I think we see this a lot in the cases of people with too many animals. It takes a lot of time to get them to even talk to us or maybe, even get into the door. But a lot of the times through the talking and making them realize what's going on, what we could offer, if they're willing to maybe surrender some of the animals or if they're willing to take some for vet care, kind of lessening that burden on them um, has been one of the ways a lot of the times with people who have just one too many animals, they come back and they say a year later, they're like, man, I'm really glad that you guys came out here a year ago. My house is clean. I'm able to adequately care for the animals that I have. I'm in a better place. I've got the resources I need. My pets are happy, and nothing bad happened. It's unfortunately it takes a lot of work, but I think that's one of the most satisfying things here is to really help people understand how to be responsible pet owners and what that means, and then them taking something from it um, and feeling better afterwards. It's not a so much as a punishment as it is an education. Sometimes there are times when, you know, enforcement is needed or animals need to be removed or seized, but um, for a large part of the calls we go on, it is education. Oh, I see Dr. Wilson asked about county locations for spay and neuter. So we do, and Dr. Varela, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we do the shelter animals and TNR at the Baldwin facility, and we do all of our public surgeries at the Dundalk facility. So we have two currently.
Yeah, but I'll expand beyond that too, because that's exactly our structure. But one of the really neat things about the field team is that when they're out there and they have a situation where really the difference between being able to keep this pet in a home or them having to find alternative home is getting a spay or neuter. They actually work hard with that constituent to get them on the surgery schedule in a really quick way. So we're not just telling people to get on the website. We're trying to get them to the resources as quickly as possible to keep that pet in the home where they belong. And so sometimes it's squeezing them into Baldwin if we can. And our entire medical team comes together to make some space in their very, very busy schedule to help that pet stay in their home. But yes, as a standard, public spays and neuters occur in our Dundalk spay neuter clinic, which is exceptional. And the TNR and shelter animals, we perform their spays and neuters in Baldwin. Great question, Dr. Wilson. Thank you.
Was. Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm going to ask you another one. It's about
Oh,
your
all right.
favorite
I
thing in
love
the
it.
entire world that you love to do, which is rabies clinics. Tell us about them and why are they important to you? Why do they matter so much?
Um, it is really getting the community the I don't even want to say access to care, but the majority of the people who attend the rabies clinics, that is the only vet care that they receive. And it's not necessarily even vet care. I wouldn't consider it that, but it is the one and only time that the pet is going to see the vet to get a shot. They're not going for distemper shots. Most people can't afford to go to a veterinarian. So when they come to see us at a rabies clinic, that is the one and only shot that they're getting for the majority of them. And it is so important. Rabies is endemic in Maryland. We see it. We have animals test positive for it frequently. Not domestic animals, thank goodness, but a lot of wildlife, which is to be expected. But um, with pet ownership on the rise and the number of animals in the homes on the rise, the more likely that your animals are going to come in contact potentially with a wild animal. So, of course, rabies prevention, number one thing, but also the need for it in the community is so high. We could probably do rabies clinics year round and still see exponentially high numbers like we've never seen in years past. And everybody's always happy at rabies clinics. even when something bad happens, they're happy because they're getting a service, and it's cheap and it's affordable for them. So there's never an unhappy person for the most part, and I really appreciate that. It's always a good time. We try to keep the lines going as quick as we can, but for the most part, even 400 rabies vaccines we can do in about 2.5 hours, which is pretty good because I know we have you vets working very hard.
Yeah. I agree with the vibe at these clinics is nothing but gratitude from
Yeah.
the people who come there, even if they have to wait in the heat, for, for those 2 hours or so. So it is great. And more lately too, as Kayla indicated, we're also able to identify people that need other services too and getting them there. So can we get them scheduled for spay and neuter? We get a lot of microchips implanted in those clinics as well. And as Kayla already said, that is the single biggest thing you can do to make sure that your pet, if they get out, they can actually be reunited with you very, very quickly. So we're getting those done too. So great clinics, and Kayla's the one who actually organizes all that. So uh,
Oh,
it's your pride and joy for sure.
I do. I love the rabies clinics. As stressful as they are, as they're coming up, I don't know if you could pry them from me. I do love them. The community loves them, and I think it's an important thing.
Right.
Okay, we're coming up on 6:45, which is perfect. Do we have any other questions?
I did.
Done excellent job as normal. Uh, this, so please share this. We will post it on social media so you can share it with your friends and neighbors. Animal Services also has a very active Facebook page and other social media. The Health Department continues our monthly webinar series. Our next one will be Wednesday, February 25th, and it most likely will focus on heart health. So thank you all. Stay warm. Have a good evening.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, everybody.